Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is speaking about stubble burning. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. When it comes to Haryana and Punjab farmers, they are engaged in the paddy cultivation. What do? They grow these paddy in their field and this is harvested in the second half of September till about October end. So what happens? The crops are harvested, the crops are taken from the field, and once they are taken from the field, the leftover part which is attached to the soil is what is called as stubble. So as you can see from the image, this part which is grounded to the earth, which is attached to the soil after the paddy harvesting has been done, is what is called as stubble. So what happens in this particular region? After the harvesting has taken place, these stubbles that are left over are burnt by the farmers in Haryana and Punjab, and as a result what we see is pollution in Delhi and in the northern part of India. So this article here is primarily focusing on stubble burning, which increases pollution in Delhi and the northern parts, and as a result some of the innovative measures to control stubble burning are discussed under this article. The first important factor that we have to understand is, why do farmers engage in stubble burning? There are multiple reasons for it. As we have discussed, the harvesting of paddy usually takes place in the second half of September till about October end. But when does the wheat sowing happen? The wheat sowing happens normally in the first week of November. So during this period, they have very less time, they have crunch of time, and as a result, if they go through the long process of manual intervention, removing these stubble, it means there is a cost as well, there is time delay as well, and as a result, the simplest of ways to ensure that such a process of stubble is removed is burning them. When you consider the traditional setup, what happened? You had the laborers who were used. These laborers were used to remove the stubble in this region so that they could uproot it completely. But now what we have is the mechanization process. The mechanization process of harvesting does not remove the stubble entirely, it leaves some part of the stubble in the field, and as a result, the simplest way for the farmer to engage and disperse this is by burning, which is why it is causing pollution in Delhi as well as in the northern parts. If they have to engage the laborers right now, as it was done in the traditional setup, the cost of removing the stubble will also increase, and who has to bear the expenses? It is the farmer. Once again, it is a time consuming process. If they have to engage the laborers, if they have to pay them more, and if they have to give them all the equipments that is required, if they have to procure more machines, that will also be a costly affair. So taking into picture all these factors, and the stubble that is left over is of no use for the farmers. If you consider the wheats, they can be used as the animal fodder, but when it comes to the paddy straw, it has high silica content that cannot be digested by the animals. As a result, farmers use the simplest way, which is to burn the stubble, which means there would be pollution in Delhi as well as in the northern parts. To prevent such an occurrence, we have laws that are already in picture. So the crop residue burning is punishable under Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981. In fact, we also have the National Green Tribunal, which has banned the crop residue burning in the states of Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and Punjab as well. But in spite of these laws, in spite of the repeated interventions, in spite of the state governments imposing penalties and also saying that they will cancel MSP to the farmers, this issue has been persisting in the state of Punjab and Haryana. So in order to overcome this particular issue, as an innovative measure, the state government of Punjab has come up with one of the initiatives. What is this initiative? What would happen is, you have the stubble. The stubble would be removed. This removed stubble would be given to the industries. So these industries shall be using this stubble as the boiler fuel. So what would happen? Industries require fuel. Fuel can be in multiple ways. It can be from the wood, it can be from the coal. So what is the Punjab government suggested? You, the industries, procure these stubble from the farmers and use these stubble as the fuel in the paddy straw fired boilers, says the Punjab government. So there are some industries like the sugar mills, pulp and paper mills. These should be given the permission, and any industry having boiler installation with steam generating capacity more than 25 tons per hour, such industries will be given permission to use the straw as the fuel so that they would be able to conduct their activities in that industry. What are the incentives given by the government? It can be divided into fiscal incentives and non-fiscal incentives. What are the fiscal incentives? Where the government is giving incentives in the form of monetary benefits. What are those? To spur the use of straw, the government has decided to provide cumulative fiscal incentive of about 25 crore to the first existing industries on first come first serve basis, and at the same time it has also given non-fiscal incentives as well. What are these non-fiscal incentives? Let's say for example there is a company. The company procures this straw from the farmer, but it has to save it somewhere. So the land that is required for saving the straw from the farmers will be given to the company with a lease agreement for about 33 years. So this is what will be given by the government so that it attracts the industries, so that the industries procure the straw from the farmers, and ultimately it is not burnt by the farmers but instead given to the industries. The industries use it as a fuel, and ultimately we are mitigating the impact of pollution is one of the innovative ideas taken by the government. But this also has challenges as well. What are these challenges? When you consider this particular proposal, what is happening? They are using this straw, but the straw in this particular case also has soil. It also has mud in itself. Why? Because it is closely attached to the soil. Since it consists of soil, it consists of mud as well. This is the major problem. Why? Because when the companies procure this, they may also have to engage in the cleaning process. If they have to clean this, that is also a time consuming process as well. So when you are using such a process, it becomes costly for the industrial bodies. Added to this, when you consider straw, what happens in straw? It also has high silica. So the industrial bodies which already have boilers where you have to use it as fuel will also have to accommodate such boilers where it would be able to withstand silica. So there is a need for bringing about new structure to the boilers where it needs to be chrome based as well. So if you are using in the current boilers, it may not work efficiently. It may lead to rusting as well. It may also lead to high cost for the industrial bodies. So they have to develop new type of boilers which is chrome based. So as a result, the cost for these industries once again might increase, might spike up. These are the challenges. So what are the challenges? One, these companies will have to clean this entire straw, and at the same time they have to bring changes in the boiler structure where this straw can be used as a fuel for all their activities, whatever it may be. But this is one of the innovative methods to reduce the impact of pollution, is what is that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says App Store Challenge. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. To understand this, we have to understand one of the concept called as the in-app purchase. What is an in-app purchase? Let me explain this with the help of an example. There are three parties that we have to consider. In one party, we have Apple and we also have Google as well. This is one of the parties. The second party is the app developer who develops the app. So that becomes the second party. And the third party is the customer, or you can say that this is a person who's downloaded an application. So who are the three parties? You have Apple or Google, where you have these developers develop an application, develop a game, or bring up multiple applications and put it on the Play Store or the App Store. And the customer in fact downloads this application from the Play Store or from the application store. What is the confusion here? There is no confusion, because you just go to the App Store or the Play Store, you just download an application. But there is a problem here. What is the problem? You have the developer who develops the application. He puts in a lot of hard work, he puts in a lot of time as well. He has to speak to the clients as well. He has to ensure that he is able to attract the customer with this particular application. So if there are any monetary benefits that is derived from this particular application, where should it go? It should go to the developer. Let's say you're downloading one of the games on Apple Store. or you're downloading one of the games on the Play Store. Let's say the cost of this particular application is about 1000 rupees. So whom should it go to? Ideally, it should go to the developer. This is the first time download. We are not speaking about the first time download, but after you have downloaded for the first time, you also have what is called as the in-app purchases. What are these in-app purchases? Let's say, for example, you have a game. In this particular game, let's say this is a game about a soldier fighting one of the other terrorists and so on and so forth. So for this particular soldier, let's assume hypothetically, he will require rifles. So to procure these rifles, what do? You may have to pay an extra amount within that particular application. So you've already bought this application, a game which is 1000 rupees, but within this particular application, for you to get extra tokens, for you to get add-ons, for you to get extra power within this application, what you require is a purchase. Let's say you want a rifle, or let's say you want a tanker in this game, or let's say you want to fly an aircraft in this particular game. So you have to, let's say, give about 100 rupees. So this 100 rupees ideally once again has to go to the developer. But what would happen? Google or Apple will charge about 15% commission or 30% commission from the developer. So the customer will ideally have to pay the developer, but what is happening is there is application that is saved in the Apple Store or in the Google Store. So Google is giving them a platform. As a result, when the customer pays, it is paid through the window where it goes to the Apple or the Google Store, and from here it goes to the developer. So this means that the developer is not able to generate 100% of the profit, and Apple and Google are putting a charge which is about 15% or 30%, and ultimately the profits for the developer is less, is what is called as the in-app purchase and the issues surrounding it. So ideally what would happen? Ideally the entire amount, or even if it is a minimal pay or the fee that they are charging, it has to be barely minimal. But because they are charging a commission of 15 to 30% in the overall profit, which is why these people, that is the developers, are angry against Google as well as Facebook. So what do the developers say? That because they have the monopoly, that is there is only App Store of Apple and you also have the Play Store of Google, they have complete monopoly, and this is preventing other rival payment system, and as a result they are charging exorbitant money. So what do the developers want? Basically the developers want that they would be able to create a new credit window. So this credit window basically means the customer need not have to go to the App Store or the Play Store, pay there, and this will be given to the developer. Instead they are asking for a direct payment gateway where they would be able to give link such that it will route them to some other website, and on that website they should be able to pay the amount so that the developer will get maximum profits. This is what it is all about. So what is South Korea doing? South Korea, in the present situation, the South Korean parliament has passed one of the amendments to the Telecommunication Business Act, which is indirectly called as the anti-Google law. Why is it called as anti-Google law? As of now, all the payments were routed to Google from Google to developer. So they were charging a fee of 15% or 30% from the profits. So what has this law done in South Korea is that it has said South Korean app developers can use in-store payment system, which means this need not be routed to App Store or the Play Store, their payment window, but instead they can come up with their own payment system. They can route it to the website. They can come up with another payment gateway system so that this profits need not be shared with Apple or the Google. That is the first point. Then it also says that the South Korean government can also intervene as well. Why intervene? Let's say there is a dispute. Dispute of what? Dispute between how much commission commission or the fee should be charged by Apple or Google. In such a case, if there is an app developer who raises the dispute, this dispute is where the South Korean government can intervene. So the South Korean government can intervene and say, this is how you have to work, dear Apple and Google. So this intervention can be made by the South Korean government. So as of now, whenever a customer pays, it is routed to Apple, it is routed to Google, and from there it goes to the application developer. So what is the law done when it comes to the anti-Google law? This developer in that particular application may be able to send emails to the customer so that the customer is diverted to the website, or the customer is diverted to another payment gateway so that he would be able to make this payment to that particular developer. So what is the advantage? The advantage is that this can act as a template for many other countries. Let's take the example of what is happening in multiple countries right now. When you take the example of Japan, what does Japan have? Apple recently changed its policy to allow some of the application developers, let's take the example of Netflix or the Spotify, to add links that will send their users, their customers outside the application so that they can make the payments. So it is not routed directly to the Apple or the Play Store, but instead they would be able to download it. But if they want to make the payment, they will go to the website. That is an exemption given by Apple in Japan. Now when it comes to the United States of America, there was a lawsuit that was filed against Apple. Apple agreed to let developers email users about the options of the payment, and at the same time you have the US Senate, which has also introduced a bill similar to that of the anti-Google law, that which is currently in picture in South Korea. Now if you consider the European Union, they have come up with a draft Digital Markets Act as well. This will make sure that companies follow all the rules and regulations as prescribed by the European Union, and this should also make sure that all the transactions and business practices and level playing field is provided to the smaller companies. Then we have Australia as well. Australia's competition watchdog has also announced an investigation into the market power of all the application stores, one run by Google, the other run by Apple. So they are also investigating as well. And in India, we also have the Competition Commission of India, which is currently reviewing one of the cases against Apple. So this means when one country law is taken into picture, it can set as a precedent to multiple other countries. So these countries can make law and ultimately prevent the financial imperialism that which has been imposed by Apple as well as Google. In the past, we have also had issues between Google and Paytm as well, where Paytm application was not allowed to be downloaded on the Google Play Store. So we had tussles and skirmishes between the local Indian companies as well as the monopoly of the international companies as well. So if you ask the view of the companies, what are they saying? Both Apple and Google's App Store charge about 15 to 30% in their app purchases. So the two companies have said this is justified. Why? Because they are providing security on their platform. They are preventing the viruses and worms or the trojans that are present, and as a result, for all the security that we are providing on our platform, charging about 15 to 30% is right, says Apple as well as Google. In fact, they also say that we are preventing the frauds, we are preventing the security breaches, and when it comes to Google, it says that Google has provided the Android application or the Android operating system for free of cost. So as a result, we are not charging anything for the operating system. We have provided everything for free. If the app developers are charging something for their own applications, we can also charge the same from the applications. Why? Because we are providing security to their applications, because they are hosting it on our very platform, and as a result we have every right to charge, say, Google and Apple. What is the conclusion that we can draw? As of now, whatever Apple may say, that this is a travesty of justice against the developers, the small developers, because about 15 to 30% is taken away by these huge companies, and as a result, who suffer? It is the developers who suffer. So this particular decision by South Korean parliament, where they brought amendments to the Telecommunication Business Act, which is also called as the anti-Google tax, can set a precedent for other jurisdictions. In fact, the same can also be adapted in India in the near future, as there is one of the cases which is currently being probed by the Competition Commission of India. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Inspire Sat1. What is it? This is nothing but a CubeSat. What is a CubeSat? According to NASA, there are different types of satellites. We have the mini satellite, which is weighing about 100 to 180 kilograms, micro satellite weighing about 10 to 100 kilograms, nano satellite weighing between 1 to 10 kilograms, pico satellite 0.01 to 1 kilogram, femto satellite which weighs about 0.001 to 0.01 kilograms. So one of the nano satellite, which is a miniature satellite, is what is called as the CubeSat. So basically what we have as a CubeSat is nothing but a nano satellite. It is a miniature satellite where it can be used for number of investigations of science. So this CubeSat can be used for demonstration of new technology and advanced mission concepts. When we look into this Inspire Sat1, this was developed under the International Satellite Program in Research and Education and is ready for launch, says the Indian Institute of Space Research. This small satellite weighs less than 10 kg and will be launched aboard on the upcoming PSLV mission of the Indian Space Research Organization. What will be the application of this satellite? Basically, it will be placed in the low Earth orbit. It is equipped with a compact ionosphere probe, and this will study the Earth's ionosphere. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, what are the new IT rules on PF savings? This article is part of economy, will be discussed in our economy this week lectures. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, why are breakthrough infections a cause of concern? We have discussed about this article in our day before yesterday's CNA. So kindly look into this discussion so that you understand what is this breakthrough infections all about, what are the concerns, and what is the way forward has been explained. So kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Illustrate with examples some innovative methods to reduce the impact of pollution due to stubble burning. Next question. Unfair markets and anti-competitive practices stifle innovation and adversely impact market outcomes. Explain the statement in reference to South Korea's anti-Google law. So please write all your answers on the comment section. You can visit our website and upload the image as well. Do peer review, give positive feedback to your friends. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.